We've all been there, lying awake, watching the hours of the clock go by. Whether you're tired of not sleeping or tired of hearing that you really should be, this next session is here to help. Please welcome our guests, led by Parneet from Wisdom Labs. We have Calm co-founder and CEO Michael Acton Smith, sleep scientist with the Henry Ford Sleep Lab, Dr. Meeta Singh, and founder and CEO of Dreem, Hugo Mercier.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to this extremely interesting sleep tech panel that we have. I'm so excited about our guests here today. My name is Parneet. I'm a physician and the Chief Science Officer at Wisdom Labs, where we're solving for stress and burnout in the workplace. And what we're noticing, even in our work, is that we are in the middle of a silent sleep loss epidemic that's slated to become the next big public health challenge of our time. And so what we're going to ask our brilliant panelists today is they're going to help us understand why we're in this crisis in the first place. Is technology a part of the problem and or solution? And how do they envision the future of sleep tech? But before I get to them, here's a question for all of you. If you'd like, please go to the Web Summit app to Slido, and there's a answer the question there on how would you rate your sleep. So we'd love to hear from you. Rate the quality of your sleep, and we'll get to the answers as we go along. So Michael, Meeta, and Hugo, welcome. And I want to paint a picture of how bad the global sleep crisis is. So Michael, why has it become so popular to talk about sleep these days?
Yes, so hey everybody. Sleep really is a red hot topic. It feels like sleep is the new rock and roll. Everyone is discussing it. And I think that's driven by a couple of things. One is that the science has improved our ability to look inside our heads and understand what's going on when we sleep. And the research around that showing the incredibly negative impacts of not getting enough sleep. And secondly, I think what's fueling it is just the always-on, accelerated, screen-addled lives that we live in. So that is impacting negatively our sleep, and people are looking for solutions. And I think one of the great books of recent times is Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep. It's become it's a bestseller. I mean, who'd have thought that just a few years ago? Sleep is something everyone is fascinated by and wondering how they can build it into their healthcare routines. And I think that's a fantastic thing and about time.
Yes, no, I'm a huge fan of Matthew Walker, and I think he's so articulate when he explains the effects of sleep deprivation, which, Meeta, I'd love to hear from you. I mean, you're a sleep scientist. You deal with clinical pathology as it relates to sleep disorders. Why should we in the room even care about sleep? I mean, what if we lose a few hours of sleep?
So I'm going to start backwards. So the first thing is that if you don't get enough sleep, your chances of dying actually increase. So if you think about the three main ways people naturally age and die, that's atherosclerosis, which is heart disease or a stroke, neurodegenerative, which is dementia, or neoplastic, which is cancer, and sleep deprivation, as well as cardiac dyssynchrony, increases risk of all three, right? And then if you think of the non-natural ways of dying, that would be either gunshot or accidents. Drowsy accidents, all of them are caused because of, or have excessive sleepiness as part of their contributing factors. So, but individually, so first of all, when people say that I'm going to die I'm going to sleep when I'm dead, I got news for you. You're going to die earlier. The second thing, of course, is that if you take every part of your body, every organ has deleterious effects from sleep deprivation. So, for example, if you don't sleep, you make poor decisions, you are over-emotional, you don't consolidate your memories, you become fatter, you have a higher chance of developing diabetes. But really, one of the reasons is because we actually, we were talking about the 24-hour culture that we have, and we wear sleep deprivation as a badge of honor. And we can do an experiment here. So in Henry Ford, we've done a study that looks at the effects of sleep deprivation and the impairments that are caused, and compares it to the impairments that you get when you drink alcohol. So if you get 6 hours of sleep, that's equivalent to drinking 2 beers and showing up at work. If you if you get 4 hours of sleep, that's like drinking 4 beers. Now, raise your hands here, anybody in the audience who's come in the morning here after drinking 2 beers? Or you get to work? Now, raise your hands if you've come here after getting less than 8 hours of sleep. All of us do that, right? We do that because we wear it as a badge of honor. We think we can get by with less sleep. And hopefully, the take-home message is that we can't.
Yeah, and thank you for your response. I'm seeing here that the polls are coming in, and 57% if you rated your quality of usual sleep about average. There was 17% who said it was terrible. Okay. So we have some honest people in the room. And 26% said that they were doing great. So Hugo, as an entrepreneur, I mean, this is especially a hot topic there, right? I mean, entrepreneurs don't sleep, do they? But you have decided to take this on as a challenge and develop this product. But can you talk a little bit about like the economic cost of losing sleep? And just as an entrepreneur, what has your experience been?
So I think it's a wrong idea. As an entrepreneur, you can sleep, right? And it's one of the big advice of Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. And if you look at a very recent example of Elon Musk, one incredible entrepreneur, you see all the effect of bad sleep on his performances, mood, and he was talking about some kind of depression because he's only sleeping between 4 and 5 hours. So I think this kind of wrong ideas, we have built that at the core of our culture, our modern societies, where, you know, the ones that are really successful are the ones that are sleeping less. You know, Donald Trump is really a big fan of saying that he's sleeping only 4 hours a night and it's a competitive advantage against the other ones, but I think it's definitely not true. So I think this idea, which started with the industrialization, with Thomas Edison, and then with this idea of the Wall Street of the 80s, you know, money never sleep, affected us, and we built that idea that short sleep was a sign of productivity and success, which is not true, actually. And if you want to go on the long run, you should sleep. So yeah, that's why we started Dreem. And also, yeah, you have an economic cost of bad sleep, for sure. You have a very interesting study from RAND that lasts from 2 years ago, which explained that the US economy has lost $411 billion, which represent approximately 2.8% of the GDP of the country. So the costs are basically direct and indirect costs, lack of productivity, absenteeism. So the cost is for the companies and the insurances. And the interesting fact about it, because the most important aspect is the consequences on health, productivity, well-being. But the interesting aspect with the economics of bad sleep is how, as an entrepreneur and someone launching a sleep product, you can invent new kind of business model where it's not only the end user which should pay for it, but also maybe the insurances and the companies, they are losing a lot of sleep, a lot of money because of bad sleep.
Yeah, and technology clearly plays a huge part in this equation. So Meeta, can you talk a little bit about how technology interrupts our sleep patterns?
Well, so, you know, since the invention of the light bulb, actually, you know, just the presence of artificial light has shortened our day. Because right now, in the middle of the night, if you turn on the lights, you know, that is going to disrupt your sleep. But these backlit hand devices that we have, if we carry them into our bedrooms, the one thing that they do is that they emit blue-green light, and that light suppresses melatonin. Now, melatonin is a hormone that your brain secretes in the presence of darkness, and that sends a signal to your brain that now you're ready to sleep. So since this blue-green light actively suppresses it, it delays your bedtime, right? So that's number one. The second thing is that the technology is very interactive. So you're like, you know, there's a never-ending scroll when you're checking Instagram or whatever else you're interested in. Or for people who are like entrepreneurs who are working, it's very easy to reach out and say, well, let me check my one last email. Right. And that's like a rabbit hole. There's no coming back from that because you know it's going to, you're going to start checking more and more emails. And then, so what you end up doing is you wake up neurons and recruit all these neurons which were ready to fall asleep, and you disrupt sleep. And it's, again, it's not just when you're falling asleep. You can also do that in the middle of the night, right? In the middle of the night, you wake up during your normal awakening, which everybody wakes up every 90 minutes or so. Typically you should turn over, go back to sleep. But you reach for that phone, and you immediately check the time. So then you start making computations in your brain. Well, I went to bed at this time. It's this, Again, you're recruiting more brain cells than need to be, and then so you're wide awake.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely guilty of that. Michael, technology has also increasingly become a part of the solution, and there are a lot of wearables and other devices out there that track our sleep. What's your take on these wearables? I mean, are we really using that data well? Are they useful at all?
Yeah, so as we said, people are waking up to the importance of sleep, excuse the pun, and people know how it's important it is, and so they're opening up their wallets. And I think the sleep industry now is over $80 billion. It's big money. And there are a lot of devices and gadgets and gizmos out there to track your sleep. And some of them, I'm not sure how effective they are. And Alex Chu and I, who set up Calm, we based it in Silicon Valley in San Francisco. And there's a lot of overcomplicated, over-engineered solutions to track our sleep. Do we really need to know the humidity of our bedroom, or the temperature, or incredibly precise charts of our sleep the previous night? Do we do anything with that data? Does that actually help us improve our sleep? And this is why we developed Sleep Stories, which is a very, very simple way to get people to fall asleep, which I can talk more about in a minute. But I think often starting with the simplest solution is the best way to go.
Yeah, and you've had incredible success with your Sleep Stories. I think you started those in 2016, and you've had 75 million listens and an average of 6 million listens a month.
Yeah, over 100 million listens now.
Wow, fantastic. So clearly something's working there, but how do you ensure that in a sleep story that the story is engaging, but not so engaging that you stay awake?
Yeah, they're very simple. So we just started with the idea of, we loved having bedtime stories read to us when we were kids. And why should that stop now we're all grown up? So we get voices with beautifully soothing, soporific voices. We create these stories that, as you say, start in an engaging way. We want people to be listening and actively involved in the story. And then gradually, as the story progresses, there's increased pacing between the words, the volume becomes lower, the music and sound effects get softer, and before you know it, you're fast asleep. And again, it sounds simple, but people love it. Very, very effective, and far better than drinking a couple of glasses of whiskey or taking a sleeping pill. And yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, fantastic. Congratulations. And Hugo, with Dreem, you were really cognizant of the fact that the existing technology out there was not hitting the mark when it came to both measuring sleep, but also helping with sleep. And so you've had a very thorough sort of product strategy in designing it. So I'd love to hear, sort of a summary of what you were thinking and what goes into the Dreem technology.
Yeah, so I've created Dreem based on some discoveries that we have made with a team of neuroscientists. We observed that by triggering audio stimulations at specific moments of the night, we're actually able to enhance the quality of deep sleep. So based on that discovery, we had the idea of building a consumer product that could potentially include this feature. But the problem was that we were using traditional laboratory or hospital equipment that we call a polysomnograph or electroencephalograph, which is a big helmet which costs between 20 and 30K. And so the idea first, and the first challenge, was to get the measurement right. So measurement, I would say that sophisticated measurement is especially important for the real case of bad sleep. Because first you need to understand accurately how you sleep. It's not enough, but it's necessary. And it's something that traditional trackers didn't get right, because what they did is measuring the movement of your wrist. So they can understand if you're in deep sleep because you're lying down a lot. Right. But the difference between REM sleep, light sleep, wake up, it's not really well done. So first we developed the Dreem Band. So it's a headband including EEG sensors to measure the brain electrical activity. We have a pulse oximeter to measure the heart rate and something to measure the breathing frequency as well. So we are recording all this physiological data, and we are processing it in real time based on the embedded electronics inside. The second thing that we have developed is a set of tools, audio tools, because I think, like in the case of Calm, that audio could be a great medium to support and help people at the most critical stage of their night, but also of their day. So we started with a deep sleep induction process. We have added some kind of features at the beginning of the night to help people fall asleep faster, something that could be similar to what Calm is doing, a smart alarm clock and feature during the day. And finally, we introduced a third pillar, which is the Dreem Coach, which is an app, because we understood that for the most severe case, for example, of chronic insomnia, it's not about only giving, a way to measure and some tools to help, but it's also we need to support and help people. Because when it comes to insomnia, you have some kind of psychological lock, you have some kind of barriers that we have been constructing around you, and you really need to help people. And so everything has been developed, with sleep experts like you, and in the future we see really like integrating Dreem with sleep experts, a community of sleep experts around that could push the coaching even further with real people helping behind that. So the audio programs and also some kind of support like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a well-known technique for insomnia.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're looking at this in a very comprehensive way. So in addition to the assessment and measuring, you are then able to help people to start to fall asleep, but then you're also, when they get to deep sleep, really helping to increase the quality of that phase of sleep, and then even taking it to the next step with cognitive behavioral therapy. So Meeta, when you hear about what they're doing at Calm and what they're doing at Dreem, as a sleep scientist, what's your take on these technologies?
Well, so...
Please be nice.
Yes. Well, I'll be accurate for sure. So the bottom line is, do you need tech to fall asleep? Not really. I mean, we've been doing it for centuries without. However, there is and there can be a place where tech can help you sleep better. Tech is now an integral part of our life. So, like we were talking earlier, that the invention of a weight scale did not cure obesity. Just because you can measure something does not mean it's going to help you do it better. Now, I'm going to talk specifically about the two things they were talking about. So, the fact that listening to bedtime stories helps you sleep better is based on science, because if you have issues winding down and you have difficulty turning your thoughts off, it's easier to do if you're actually listening and thinking about something else, right? It replaces your own ruminating thoughts. And similarly, yes, there is science that shows that playing pink noise or certain audio outputs at certain times in the night, if they happen at the same time where slow waves peak, your deep waves peak, that'll strengthen deep waves. So that's the science that we know already, right? So to say that what tech is doing actually helps sleep, well, the only way to tell is if they do cross-sectional, clinically validated, controlled studies to show if using that helps. However, the first step is to develop tech based on a need, and to develop it based on science. And I have to say, this is based on absolutely sound science.
Ooh,
does that help?
That's a relief.
Sorry.
Okay, good. Oh yeah, we were sitting on the edge of our seats there. So Michael, I'd love to hear a little bit about the data that you've collected so far. What's the feedback that you're getting with sleep stories, and how is that informing what you design in the future with Calm?
Yeah, so we looked at the data a couple of years ago and noticed before we introduced sleep stories that we saw this huge spike around the world every evening at about 10:50 at night. And that we discovered was the average time people were going to sleep. And they were listening to our meditations to help engage their mind and drift off. And meditations are not designed for that. So that is why we started Sleep Stories. And we've now created over 100 of these and learned a huge amount about what resonates and what doesn't. So we discovered that people love Stephen Fry's voice, very, very soothing. And we created this lavender mix that you can spray on your pillow while you're listening to Stephen Fry tell you a story about the lavender fields of Provence. So that mix of audio and aromatherapy is so strong, that sends people to sleep. And then many, many other insights, but the other one I'll share is that our most popular type of sleep stories are about trains. So there's something about the rhythmic clickety-clack of a train track. We put that in the background of a story, and I think whether people entrain their heartbeat with it or something else is going on that helps people fall asleep very quickly.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And I think it's always easier to fall asleep when you're in some kind of motion.
Yes. Vibration just, it's called vestibular vibration will always help. Yeah.
Perfect. And Hugo, you've had some impressive data. Just very quickly, can you elucidate some of the impressive findings that you've had?
So I agree that clinical trials and scientific publication are key for the user, because they have been seeing a lot of false promise from the first generation of wearable products saying, get a better sleep with that wristband.
Yeah. Which is bullshit.
Which is bullshit, we can say.
There we said it.
And so I think it's in particular critical to do some scientific research and scientific studies. So first, what we got is about the measurement. So what we did is we have people equipped with Dreem headband and a polysomnograph, so the gold standard for measuring sleep. And then we had compared Dreem with Dreem algorithm versus a polysomnograph and a sleep expert. We took 5 sleep experts per night and per user, because you have a variability between how people can score nights. And so what we see is the Dreem algorithm ranked 2 on 5 people. So we are within the inter-variability of 2 sleep doctors, meaning that we have almost a near optimal accuracy in measuring and analyzing sleep. But it's one thing that we have done, but now we are looking also at, for example, deep sleep stimulation that increase on average by 40% the quality of deep sleep, meaning from a more scientific standpoint, the amplitude of the slow waves. We are looking at, the reduction on average by 50% of the duration to fall asleep on people having insomnia after 8 weeks of our CBT combined with techniques. So we have done a lot of research and it's just the beginning. And the problem with traditional sleep research is usually it's on 20, 30, 40 people. Having a kind of technology that you can export on thousands of people, you could do what we call remote-based clinical studies. That, for example, Apple did for the Earth study. So it will be hundreds of thousands of people and during a long period of time, which will bring new kind of data and more depth in the data.
Great. So we have about a minute left. So just very quickly, just take a few seconds, say, are you optimistic about the future of sleep tech, and what do you envision that to be? Or Meeta, any quick tips that you can give us?
Well, I will say that common sense is always better. So anything that increases the metabolism of your brain during the day, which is physical exercise, as well as using your brains by keeping yourself active, is what will result in decrease in metabolism at night and help you sleep better. And which is basically exercise and mental activity. So just do that. But that would be the best way to get enough sleep. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just think this is wonderful. As I say, we're in this golden age of sleep. We spend a third of our lives asleep. 7.5 billion people do it every night. I think it's fantastic that we are now starting to learn about it and discover what's going on and how it impacts every aspect of our life, not just our immune system, but staving off Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and a whole host of other areas. So I think this is a fantastic time to be into sleep.
And Hugo?
Yeah, so of course I'm optimistic, or I won't do that job, but I think that what will happen, and it's from the entrepreneur point of view, is like you have a lot of sleep products. Like every year you get like 10, 15, 20, 25 new products on Kickstarter, like a near similar approach, like under the mattress, on the wrist, or whatever, on your leg, or whatever. And so I believe that probably in the coming years we will have some kind of natural selection, because you need to build something that is scientifically good, but which is harder. You need to have something that has a true impact and subjective impact on how people feel about their sleep. And so ultimately, I think you won't have like 20, 30 different solutions. That's why one of our vision is to try to build this kind of sleep reference solution and to be an entry point for that. So we're working hard for this.
Fantastic. Well, I think the future of sleep is looking really bright. And I want to thank Michael, Meeta, and Hugo so much for all of your brilliance. And I wish all of you a good night's sleep tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.